Alright guys, I'm back in the original setup. If you want to know all about that, be sure to watch my previous video or just click on the link in the top right. But in this video, I want to go over all the Ark 3.0 buffs that the Warlock are getting. Bungie actually went out and finally did it. I think we all stated enough that Ark 3.0 Warlocks are definitely the most underwhelming compared to all the subclasses in the entire game. Sure, it is pretty good for PvP, but for in-game PvE, it is honestly one of the worst things you could possibly run. There are some fun aspects to it, but just comparing it to things like Solar or even Stasis, and sometimes even Void, if you have a build correctly set up, you're just never going to run it. But like I said, they did listen and we are receiving some changes, which is very good. You can definitely expect to see a bunch of updated builds coming in the next season. So if you guys like to see that, be sure to stick around. So the Warlock is actually going to receive 3 different buffs for their Ark subclass. The first one is going to be all about Ark Soul. Ark Soul was never up to par with things like Child of the Old Gods or even things like Bleak Watchers. Anything that you can use that will help you in a fight that isn't actually you shooting it, it was definitely left behind. They are aware of that, and they even mention it in their posts, saying that there's really no reason to not take it over any of those. So I hope this buff is actually going to make it perform very well and something that you would want to take into in-game content. So the buff for it is going to increase the base damage versus PvE combatants from 35 to 60. So if we are just looking from a 35 to 60 increase, this is going to be 71% damage increase. Now there's a lot of numbers behind that, but if you kind of round it up, just give it a nice number, it's going to be around a 71% increase. And with Ark Souls already not doing a lot of damage, we'll just have to wait and see how this will perform later when it actually gets released. Okay, so what I actually want to do is I'm loaded into a Grandmaster Nightfall, and what I'm going to do is I'll come over here, place my Ark Soul. We can see how much damage it does. So as you see, it tracks the enemy and it's going to kill this dragon in about 4 bursts. Now obviously this is not supercharged, this is kind of just the base damage you're going to have with Ark Soul. So imagine that, but it's going to be increased around 71%. So you can probably imagine seeing that Ark Soul killing it around 3 bursts, maybe 2 if you get lucky. Then obviously if you're pairing this with your teammates standing in that rift as well, they're going to be able to get those Ark Souls, and you could definitely do a lot more damage, adding a lot of extra damage to bosses, maybe even champions. And I think it actually could be very well if this buff does go through. Now I think another thing to be aware of is Getaway Artist. This could become a very potent exotic because this is obviously going to make you amplify when you consume your grenade, but this also gives you that sentient Ark Soul, which is better than the normal Ark Soul. It would do more damage, and I'm pretty sure it has more of a burst as well. Plus you get that grenade energy back when the Ark Soul hits, so you can probably have these very powerful Ark Souls up 24/7 with these. And if the Ark Soul buff does go through and become really strong, I definitely think you could see these being played, so definitely be on the lookout for these. But now it doesn't end there. We also have some buffs to our melee effects. Obviously, Lightning Surge is honestly probably the best aspect on the Warlock. It actually is very good in in-game content. You do have to get up close and have the potential of dying, but it can pretty much one-shot a lot of enemies and jolt everything, and it's just really good for clearing out mobs. So what they want to do is actually take their base melees and try to put them on the level of Lightning Surge. So what they're doing is making the Ball Lightning have an increased range from 27.5 to 35 meters when you are amplified, and Chain Lightning will do 50% more damage to PvE combatants when you're amplified. The Chain Lightning one definitely is way more interesting to me. Now maybe your melee would be able to kill a lot of things if you just, you know, are in a close situation and need to get a melee out. And that pairing with the new Ark Soul buff, you could potentially take off Lightning Surge and have Ark Soul and Electrostatic Mine, and now your melee also still going to be very viable as well. What could be really funny if this actually bugged out and it gave these effects to Lightning Surge depending on what melee ability you had equipped. I highly doubt that happens, but if it does, having Lightning Surge do 50% more damage could be very fun, but I highly doubt that is going to happen. But I do think this is going to pair extremely well with the Ark Soul buff going hand in hand, because now your melee won't be completely useless. Then finally, the biggest one is Chaos Reach. Chaos Reach in the game right now is honestly probably one of the worst supers in the entire game. On paper, it does have pretty good DPS, but the downside of it is it takes forever to cast it. With things like Thunder Crash or even Nova Bomb, which obviously is nowhere as good as Thunder Crash, they are just one and done supers. Or even the new Arc Hunter super, you can throw it and do DPS while it's actually doing damage to a boss. Chaos Reach does have very similar numbers to a lot of the higher DPS supers in the game, but the difference is you have to constantly stand in it and you can't shoot. You literally can't do anything. You're just stuck in midair, and that is your damage. And just using other stuff is always going to equal to higher DPS numbers. So the changes they're making to Chaos Reach is they're actually going to be reducing the cooldown time from 9 minutes and 16 seconds to 7 minutes and 35 seconds. So essentially, this is going to be equal to things like Blade Barrage or Silence and Squall. And they really want to make this more like a one-off option. Say if you just need to really take down a champion or just any higher health target, whatever you're doing, or just do some additional DPS if you're out of ammo 3.0, that is kind of what the super is going to be for. I'm very skeptical if this is actually going to do anything to Chaos Reach, because now in the game, obviously cooldown times do matter, but if you are doing a lot of damage to enemies, obviously that's also going to charge your super, and I think this will let you get more Chaos Reaches more often, and I think you'll be able to use them more of an at clear situation. But if you're using Chaos Reach for at clear, you might as well just take Storm Trains, is what I'm concerned about. I really wish they would have buffed the damage for this and maybe even reverted the Geomax stabilizer nerf so you could use it more as a DPS super, but alas, this is where we're at. But I do think the neutral game for Ark 3.0 is going to be way better. Having your Ark Souls do double damage now, your melee is not being completely useless, and being amplified is going to be extremely strong because it's going to buff both of those things. I think it is going to be a very fun playstyle, and if you have your teammates all in that Ark Soul with that double damage, I think you will be able to do a lot of extra damage to things like champions and bosses. Again, the Chaos Reach one, I'm a little interested in to see how it plays, but we'll see where it goes. But wrapping all that together, I think Ark 3.0 Warlock is going to be a lot better now. I still don't know if it's going to be the most meta option to take, but obviously we can wait and see. I can't wait to test all this stuff out, and again, I will make updated builds for this in the future if you guys want to see them. And if you guys did enjoy this and want to see more content like this right now, be sure to consider subscribing, dropping a like, and turn those notifications on. Also, if you want to join my Discord or follow me on any of my socials, all that will be linked in the description as well. But just know watching this video is way more than enough, and that every single bit of support from you all is truly appreciated. Thank you all so much for watching this one, and have a great day. Peace.